A very warm welcome to the Daily Dispatch powered by HSBC. And with me today for this very special interview is Shantanu Deshpande from the Bombay Shaving Company. Thank you very much, Shantanu, for joining us today on the Daily Dispatch. I want to begin by asking you a little bit about the 160 crore rupees that you've recently raised. What does this really mean for the company, and where will these funds be utilized?
Hey, thanks a lot, Priya. First of all, always a pleasure to talk to you and be on the Daily Dispatch. I think Bombay Shaving Company has kind of been around for a while. We are now end-to-end hair removal solution provider for men and women both. We started as a shaving company, but now have kind of morphed into a much larger business. I think the COVID helped us a lot. Of course, a tragic social outcome, but as a business, it helped us a lot in the sense that we were able to be a lot more competitive online. We used the time to become a lot more competitive offline. So we've raised this capital with a view to grow probably 5 to 10x over the next 8 to 12 quarters. I think the idea is to continue to grab share in the categories that we are present in both online and offline channels. We are going to invest it in product innovation, in offline sales distribution, and of course in inherent brand building. So we are looking at above the line media spends. We're looking at more brand ambassadors. We are looking at building top of the funnel in a much smarter way. I think the brand has gotten a lot of salience. So now I think the idea is to make it a household brand.
You know, one number that stuck with me is the 500 crore rupee revenue target that you've set for yourself. Tell us what would be the key drivers for this. If you could highlight maybe 2 or 3 key growth pillars for you going forward.
We are not far away, right? We are almost 40% of the way there already, right? And we have grown 5x in the last 5 quarters. So if we are able to continue the growth trajectory, it's an ambitious target, but one that is very, very possible. I think there are 2-3 broad growth drivers for us. I think number one is while we maintain our share in the categories we are strong in online, I think the idea is to build the same market share offline. Right now we are present in 35 to 40,000 stores directly, but the idea is to take them to 2 lakh stores and maintain the same share. So we on average have a 16% share in the stores that are currently present in. Maintaining that share in a much larger universe of retail is obviously one growth driver. The second growth driver is launching more products, especially for women. We have a very good set of products in shaving, trimmers, beard for men, and personal care. In women, hair removal is a more service-driven industry right now than it is a product-driven one. But we believe that with COVID, a lot of the do-it-yourself solutions where women are using hair removal solutions and not going to salons but doing it at home is increased multifold. So our ability to launch extremely innovative, easy to use, almost beauty products for hair removal as opposed to functional products is another growth driver for us. And then of course, we have set up a completely new company for it. There's a different person, like there's a different leader who's leading it end to end like a startup within Bombay Shaving Company. So that's growth driver number 2. And growth driver number 3 is I think brand penetration, right? So just everyone being aware of Bombay Shaving Company, the consistency of the message, the ability to tell a story over and over again to people across media platforms is important. So I think there are 3 areas we'll invest in for sure over the next 1 or 2 years.
Well, Shantanu, I want to understand in terms of international expansion. I know that there are a couple of areas globally that you've been trying to tap into and expand into. So tell us a little bit about your international strategy.
So see, if you look at hair removal in general, right? Hair removal is a unique use case across the board, right? So in every country it's different. So for example, the US has mostly blonde hair on Caucasian white skin or black hair on black skin, right? So both of those have different hair removal use cases, as is the case with Europe as well. India, for example, is a very unique hair removal use case because it's black hair on brown skin or fairer skin, which is the case in Middle East and like the Indian subcontinent. If you move towards East, China and Southeast Asia, again, the ethnicity is such that people don't have a lot of hair. So we are looking for areas or geographies where the ethnicity lends itself to a lot of hair on the body and different like face or body or whatever. And removal is an important part of the beauty process. And of course, where there is a strong Indian population as well. We've already gotten a lot of interest from in the Indian subcontinent, right? From Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Middle East, Pakistan. So we are already servicing a lot of these countries through our products. We are a little cautious about international expansion because we are uncomfortable being so far away from the core consumer. When we're so far away from the consumer, it becomes hard to understand them and then market them well. But I think if we are able to, I think in the next 1 or 2 years, we will be focusing on targeting, hair removal solutions and beauty solutions to people who are relevant in international geographies, using partnerships with distributors and retailers who understand the space well, and setting up teams internationally as well across the board. So I think now we will be a lot more aggressive and not just about fulfilling demand that is organically created, but actually creating demand ourselves.
Shantanu, I understand you're also looking at investing into adjacencies. Tell us a little bit about what that thought process is and what kind of companies would you be looking at investing into?
Yeah, so I think the idea is that we have built a whole host of capabilities, right? So one of the biggest capabilities we have is our offline sales team. We are uniquely positioned as a company that has two global large strategic investors like Colgate, Palmolive, and Reckitt Benckiser. These are $100 billion businesses, and we are the first and only investment for both of them in India. And one unlock that creates for us, Priya, is that we are able to, they are together available in 4 billion stores in India, right? Which is like 70% distribution. So we can ride on their capabilities, on their expertise, on their teams to put Bombay Shaving Company in those, not those 4 billion, but at least to get to 2 lakh stores. We have a team of 100 people, which is probably the best startup sales team in India from an offline standpoint, right? That's the leader, the vision of that team, the passion of that team, the commercial astuteness, the way we do merchandising, the way we do assortment choices. There's a reason why we take 16% share in every store we are present, because the team is high quality. So we are saying if we have a pipe to 2 lakh stores, that pipe can carry Bombay Shaving Company and maybe 2-3 other young companies also, because that expertise exists with us. That pipe doesn't have to be restricted to us. So if we are able to get access to a shelf, in that shelf, if we have Bombay Shaving Company, maybe 2-3 adjacent brands which the consumer buys at the same time or is related to each other, we can actually own it. So we are thinking of kind of expanding and acquiring inorganically certain brands. I think the filters for us, Priya, would be easily sellable offline, great founders, very good product market fit, and adjacency to Bombay Shaving Company, and of course a cultural fit with our team. So if those 4 or 5 boxes are ticked, we'll be very keen to get people on, and of course scale them up and create wealth for those founders as well. So I think the idea is that we have capabilities. If you have something, we can work together and create a win-win.
So for this, I understand there's another amount, around 300 crore rupees, that's going to be raised. Is there some timeline that you have for this?
My view is, I think, look, we went into the market looking to raise 100 crores because, look, we operate at 60% gross margins. Companies like us should not be raising a lot of money in dental. Like, this is more money than I have raised in 5 rounds of financing put together in the last 5 years, right? So, but the market is good. People are interested. Bombay Shaving Company has grown 5x, so there is a appetite for capital, which is good. Like, it's good to kind of get gunpowder for the future. But when we went in to raise 100 crores, we did not expect that we will get 500 crores worth of offers, right? We got term sheets for 500 crores. And the board got together and said, you know what, look, we are in a unique position where people want to come in, great investors want to come in. Why don't we find ways to deploy this capital in a much better and efficient way for Bombay Shaving Company to achieve its IPO target sooner and kind of find inorganic ways to do it. A lot of companies are trying this. You know them better than I do. But I think what separates us from everyone else is that we have a very strong finger on the pulse of offline, which no one else does, just from the nature of the team and the investors we have and so on, right? So I think the idea is that this 160 crores, of course, takes Bombay Shaving Company, but if we are able to raise another 300 to 500 crores by maybe March to May, we will be able to start at least doing a lot of deal making of the kind I was talking about. So I think that's the idea.
A final question before I let you go, Shantanu. You did mention the word IPO, and that's led me to ask this question. What's the kind of timeline for that? Can we expect something over the next year or so?
Not year. My view is small, like 200, 300 crore revenue IPOs are kind of suboptimal for everyone. I think 600 to 1,000 crore revenue IPOs are great. So we should have a 10 to 12 quarter outline for it. What encourages me, Priya, is that challenger brands to very valuable public businesses get a lot of love on the street, right? So a classic example is Indigo Paints, right? Indigo Paints, the founder is a very close family friend of ours. And I've seen that journey from very close, like from when I was a child, right? But very clear vision that if we are able to challenge Asian Paints are very valued, like retail investors love Asian Paints, but Indigo is seen as a very serious challenger to them. Indigo gets a lot of love on the street, right? They'll get a fabulous PE, they'll get a great multiple, people will oversubscribe and so on. I know you saw the story, it's probably the most successful IPO we've seen in a long time. My view is when we go public, we will be the only real challenger to Gillette. And Gillette is a fabulous company, has given great returns. Retail investors love them, but we are the real challenger there. So if we are a 500 to 1,000 crore business, good intrinsic metrics, and a serious challenger to Gillette, we will get love on the public markets. Of that I'm certain. The question is how quickly we can get there. So idea is to build out a business that is intrinsically lovable. Consumers love the brand to use. It's available in stores, and then the category takes care of itself. So I'm hoping that that's not more than 12 quarters away.
All right, Shantanu, we wish you all the very best in your journey, and we'll be tracking milestones as and when they come. Thank you so much for being a part of the Daily Dispatch. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.